Hey there, welcome to the REI Conversion Podcast, where each episode we discuss strategies and digital tools to help you launch, automate, and scale your real estate investing business. Learn how to run your investing business remotely, find out ways to automate your business to better utilize your time, and learn what other successful investors are implementing so you can get to the next step closer to your investing goals. And I'm your host and founder of REI Conversion, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? This is Jesse here from the REI Conversion Podcast Show. I've got two special guests on this episode with me here today. Their names are Ryan and Max, and you may know them or have spoken to them because they are the founders of PRYCD.com, a system that allows you to be able to get your offers quickly for your properties. We're going to be talking about time management, partnership, and all sorts of different things when it comes to running a scalable land investing business, as well as their business with Priced. This episode is brought to you by REI Pebble. If you're looking for a platform to manage your land investing business from one system, make sure you check out REI Pebble. From automating and simplifying the whole mailing process with no need for a mail merge, simply drop your list in and getting your mailing out, to customizing and generating docs, whether it's your neighbor letters to your land contracts to your warranty deeds on the fly and mailing those out the very next day, to finally organizing and tracking your buyer and seller leads, making sure every lead is connected and organized to a piece of property or a property record sitting within REI Pebble. Make sure you book a tour with me. You can head over to reiconversion.com. There's a big red button that says book a tour. Go ahead, find a time that works best for you, and we'll jump on a call together. Aside from that, I hope you enjoy and get as much on this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. Cheers. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the REI Conversion Podcast. I've got two guests here, Max and Ryan. You guys probably some of you guys have met them or seen them around. They are the two guys that run Priced.com. That's PRYCD.com. Max, Ryan, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I am doing well. So, you guys, first of all, I brought you on the show because, well, first of all, you're obviously involved with Price, but I want to talk a little bit more on the land investing side and how you guys run your business. First of all, why don't you give us a little backstory of how you guys met and how you guys got started with land?
Yeah, no, and again, thanks for having us on the air. It's great to be here. And so we started a little bit ago. So we're both military members, and so we got started at the Airforce Academy, where we went to college and got our commissioning source from there. And so we played hockey, got recruited to go there, and played there the 4 years that we were there. Unfortunately, we both got injured. So we kind of had to fill our time doing something else. We still had that competitive nature and didn't want that to go. And so we wanted to kind of fill that, try to figure out what kind of identity we can go with from there. And so it really started out, honestly, with an entrepreneurial a competition we entered. And so we entered in this competition, ended up coming in second place, got some money out of it. And it kind of just jump-started us and got our interest in, wow, this... There's some other things that we can do and compete and actually do well. And it's fun and exciting. And so from there, we kind of started, after we graduated, still continued and make some products together and just kind of had a lot of failures along the way, but kind of learned from them, got some more products, learned, it failed, and then kind of went through that iteration process until we kind of came across the land section. I actually had a friend also in the military who was doing land investing, and I saw his success actually, and was curious about it. And so at the time, Ryan and I were doing some other project, and so I kind of did this on my own for a little bit, tested it out, did not like it at all because of all the processes in place. Actually, took a year off just because there was so much between like a normal 9-to-5 job and what we were doing. It's a lot of work, and so. Yeah. Didn't like the process, took a year off. Ryan and I did our own other projects to see what we can do, and kind of came back to the land investing space and realized that if we needed to do this, we needed to do it in an automated manner that we could kind of process and work around our normal 9-to-5 job. And so from that's where we kind of created the land investing business, created Priced, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of other land investors, including myself, have gone through trying different projects and trying different things. out of curiosity, are you guys open to sharing what you guys tried and eventually failed at and then came across? It's just really interesting to hear this.
Yeah, so the one big one that we built was a cryptocurrency trading app. Actually, we spent about a year and a half building it out, and really the idea was is we had all these different sort of algorithms that we wanted to use, and it enabled you to mix and match the algorithms and like set customization on those algorithms, and then you'd hit play. It would connect to your like Coinbase or Binance account essentially, and it would just trade. It would basically run those algorithms in real time for as long as you ran the program. It would just trade cryptocurrency, and it would show you like statistics on how it was doing, and how much money you've made or how the algorithms are performing. It was actually really fun, and the lesson we learned from that was we kind of built it in a vacuum. Like Max and I we completely built it with each other. We never really asked anybody else what they thought. And ultimately, like it was really cool, but there were some shortcomings to it. It was a desktop app, so you had to like run it and install it on your computer. It had to be running. You couldn't just like step away from your computer. So like if your computer fell asleep, it like stopped running, which was kind of a pain. Yeah, so, but that was a lot of fun, honestly. And
That's very cool.
I think the biggest lesson we took from that was like, hey, we probably want to get some feedback early on in the process about like what users might actually want instead of what just we want.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. I actually have a side passion project, another podcast that I do. It's called "I'm Horrible at Business," and it's one of those things that I love hearing. Is these kind of lessons are so important that you give it a shot and give it a go, and you sort of learn these things. And if you didn't go through that sort of crypto project, who knows? You may not have priced right now, right? So
Absolutely.
it's great that you guys went through that and to do it together, which is awesome. And so that's my next question here. Why did you guys decide to partner? I understand that you guys did a competition together, and then you guys just feel like you had good chemistry. It's always I get to ask this a lot. I've been asked this. Even on some of our demo calls. Hey, do you think I should partner with so and so, and should I do this? And it can be quite tricky to work with a friend like you guys are, or a family member, kids. How has that been like? First of all, why did you guys decide to partner, and how has that been like for you both?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we first started out, it just kind of started out as, hey, let's try this out. Let's go from there. We didn't really think about it as starting a business, really. We just kind of originally thought of it as, hey, let's try this fun thing for ourselves, see what we can do with it. And so we kind of started at that. So like the lowest level, the project before we actually got into our crypto thing, we got a little ahead of ourselves and started to try to think about all the company side of things, who's going to get what shares and everything before we even had a business plan or really a product or anything. We were kicking out people out of our company that we didn't even have. It was actually really funny thinking back on it now. So when after that, we kind of just said, hey, let's just have fun with this from the start. Let's see where this kind of takes us. No contract, no anything basically. And just see where it goes. And so from that standpoint, it was just kind of fun projects for us. So we could kind of back out whenever we want. But through that process, we realized, and also working with other people, that we both had the same drive. We both had the same focus in what we were doing, and realized that we actually had a really good kind of sense of partnership between. Ryan is really good at computer science coding. I had a lot of finance management background. And so we kind of put both of our core competencies together, and they worked out really well. And so through that process, we were able to kind of work off of each other's strengths, and just kind of formed through there as we kind of grew and built. We should kind of looked at it and it's like, hey, we should maybe get this a little bit more formalized now. We both had the same goals in mind because we kind of sat down and did that. It's super important. Some people want to stop after 6 months. Some people want to stop after 5 years, different goals, 10 years down the line. And so it's really important to kind of lay that out early and often too, because that changes over time. And so that's what we kind of did and worked it out from there.
Yeah, and I think it's like sort of with any business idea, you sort of put it out there and test things, and in a way, you guys were testing your partnership together, and without even realizing it, right?
Mhm.
But without making any sort of formal commitments, and I think that's a really smart move on both your ends. Kind of just see how things kind of work out. And would you say that's a an approach that you would suggest for others who are looking to partner up with others? I mean, do you guys have any sort of thoughts on ideas on how to partner up, or um, yeah, general thoughts on that?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Max.
I would say I totally recommend taking your time to do it. There's so many different scenarios that people have a lot of fire, a lot of like energy, and want to do successful things right off the bat. But once you
Hmm.
realize that it's not just this pretty glamorous thing over time, it's actually a lot of work behind the actual process. A lot of
Yeah,
late nights, a lot of just work in general. When you're not feeling it, it changes people, and you really start to see how people react in their desire over time. So that's kind of the big thing that we learned. And so we totally recommend taking your time with this because, again, it's always different seeing them from day one, even in the
hmm,
first like couple months to over a long period of time, and seeing if that kind of sticks. Is it still something that people want to do? Because even though they may be a great partner, if there's not the desire to actually do it, that still could be a problem. So you want to make sure that both are in alignment. And so that's perfect to take your time. There's nothing wrong. Just waste. Even if you're starting a business, you don't even have to start anything formal. You don't really have to create an LLC starting
totally
out.
agree.
So
Yeah.
it's always good to start like MVP. Even you do that with the product, MVP with your partnerships as well.
Totally agree. Yeah, the whole even I'm not here to give any legal advice, but I totally agree with you. Not even needing an LLC and sort of moving without that and figuring things out on the way rather than trying to officialize everything at the get go. So I
Mhm.
love that. You mentioned late nights. So this is really what I wanted to dig in a little bit here. Okay, so an excuse for I've already said it to you guys, and for the listeners, I know most of you guys are from the United States. I'm a Canadian myself, and so please excuse me if I don't use the terminology correctly here. But you guys are both part of the Air Force, is that correct?
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
what does that look like? Is that a full time 9 to 5 thing?
It is, yeah. So for both of us, for the most part, it's a 9 to 5 or eight to six, depending on the day. Kind of day job, Monday through Friday, with the understanding that that can completely change at any given moment, and you can be called in on a weekend, or I mean, really, thankfully, you can. We haven't had this yet, but you can deploy overseas.
Wow.
There's some. It's not quite like the traditional 9 to 5, and but yeah. So when Max mentions late nights, a lot of that is he gets home. I know his schedule is he gets home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and goes right into support calls and consulting calls with customers. And I'm usually hacking away at emails or trying to fix any bugs or add new features, into the late of the night or early morning. So no, it's definitely interesting for sure.
That is so interesting. So, in terms of time management, a lot of land investors also do the whole 9 to 5, whether they're pilots. We have a lot of pilots in land investing, doctors, surgeons, everybody from everywhere, firefighters. We had Paul Brewer here once, and who was talking about himself as a firefighter. So, what does time management look like for you guys on the land side of things? So, if you're working all the time on price, what does land currently look like? Is that sort of taking a bit of a back burner, and while you guys are focusing on price, what does that currently look like?
Yeah, and so I'd say it does come secondary to price, but it's kind of ironic because we built priced for our land investing business. So before it was launched live and everything, when we first got started, when kind of how I mentioned, I started a year before we kind of started up together.
Yeah.
I realized how many manual processes there were in the land investing space, and so realized that with our job and everything, it would be way too much to do that and do all the manual parts of that process. So when we first got together, that was one of the things we started out is to really have a goal was setting up automations for the acquisition side, doing the actual deal marketing, and then the sell side as well. So we wanted to make sure we're taking ourselves out of that process, but still being effective. So when our first original design, and it kind of was for the acquisition process, is how do we let our like this algorithm tell us where to mail and how much to mail and everything. So that was our first design. Originally turned into basically an auto process where we can pull data, and essentially have it priced, have it scrubbed, downloaded for us in a ready to send format. So we can just move that over to our mailing service, and just get it out the door. So instead of taking a couple hours, days, however many hours it takes people to do it. I know some people lock themselves in a closet to do it. Some people just take some time line by line. So we created an automated process to send out blind offers for us. And so now instead of taking that much time, we actually take 5-10 minutes to send out letters now. And that's to scale. So 5,000-10,000, depending on how much we want to do, it can scale up and still produce the same results. So we automated that part of the process. So that was a huge time crunch that we just kind of compiled and consolidated. And from there, once we send out the letters, the next part is the calling, obviously. So we did the whole taking the calls at first, and it was with, again, I'm sure other people can understand this with 9-to-5 jobs, running out of the office or anything, trying to take a call while also not bothering anyone. And then of course the calls are people yelling at you too. So all of that kind of combined, it was a tough part. So we learned the hard way. But from that, we got a call service. So now essentially they take the calls, they run them through, filter them out, and then they streamline it and goes right into our CRM process. So we have it now in the CRM. We have the due diligence phases. Right now, we're doing a little bit of the due diligence. We've tried to hire that out to just like either a college student or anything as an internship. So they learn, they get some work, but they're learning the business as well. So we're kind of trying to take ourselves out of that process as well.
Sure.
While we're doing that, we also kind of double. So all of our deals, and this is part of like the time management piece, is that we're doing larger deals so we can use a real estate agent.
Yes.
So we can not focus on as much as selling. We just kind of give it to them and they do the selling for us. So we, at the same time doing due diligence, we reach out to the real estate agent, make sure that they're on board. We always ask for their opinion. And if their opinion is in line with what we're buying it at, what we believe we can sell it at, we'll basically give them the listing once we do acquire the property. So we have that, give that to them, and that kind of takes care of the selling part, which has been great so far. So we are outsourcing as much as possible, and the real estate space is great for outsourcing, and only paying people essentially when the deals come through. So it's set up in a way where you can outsource and do all that stuff with little money, and it's a great working process. But that's how we have everything set up right now, and are working through it.
That's awesome. And it's great. I mean, that you guys are leveraging, obviously software and then people as well. So the marketing side of thing is huge. If you guys are just, basically leveraging a real estate agent to help doing your marketing. I mean, you've got now your acquisition, your marketing side all covered here.
Yeah.
And by the way, we had Jaron over from RE Tipster who talked to us about selling with a real estate agent. So if you guys are listening, you can check out reiconversion.com/REICon042. That's episode 42. We had Jaron there. He talked about how to find a real estate agent to help with the marketing side of things. And yeah, I guess just like him, you don't need to worry about any marketing anymore. So, and I know a lot of people hate that process. So,
yeah, and knock on wood, it's been pretty good so far, at least.
Right. Yeah. Actually, out of curiosity, what sort of an arrangement do you have with your real estate agent?
Yeah, I mean, so again, we start
in terms of what does that sort of look like in terms of a split, and in general?
Yeah, I mean, starting out again, before we even offer any contract to them or anything, and when we're still looking in the due diligence, it's basically a conversation saying, hey, we're land flippers. We have a property in the area we're looking at. If we do go through and purchase it, we want to use you, but we also want to get your basically your fair and honest opinion of this property and market value that could reasonably sell in a decent time. So we get their valuation essentially of the property before we even purchase it. And so again, we have our offer.
They're part of your due diligence process.
They are. And honestly, it's great as long as you let them know up front and are honest with them, saying, hey, we may not, but if it does work in line with what you believe you can sell it at, we want you to be the listing agent on the property. And so
Brilliant.
as long as they're on board, and again, we haven't had much pushback at all with that. Everyone's been excellent and awesome to work with. As soon as we get the property, they already know what it's worth. They already know about it. And we just hand it to them. And it's usually just a normal agreement where it's 6% commission on their end. We'll ask if they're splitting with the buy side agent and everything. And usually they do. But just normal agreement. We'll give them usually a 3 months time period. And if they don't, we have the option to back out if needed. But that's usually how it's been. And it's been pretty good. And again, we've enjoyed the process. It's made our lives a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. It's always either leveraging people or software that'll allow you to sort of scale. And then, so you guys being in the Air Force, and do you guys have kids as well, families? No? Okay.
No, I'm married, but no kids.
There. Okay, not there. Cool. So with being in the Air Force, you still doing that and with priced and land flipping as well. What sort of you guys find as the biggest difficult challenge that you guys might have, especially on the time management side of things?
Well, I think one of our biggest challenges right now is support on the price side. We're starting to grow a pretty big user base, and with that, we offer our support calls. We have our email, and some days it's okay. We'll get a few good emails, and it's no problem. And then there's some days where it seems to converge, where you get 20 or 30 emails all at once, and then there's calls, and then that happens to, of course, be your busiest day at the office, and it just becomes like, all right, well, you're going to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning trying to catch up on. We obviously have our thing on our website where we'll respond within 24 hours, so we're making sure that we're staying diligent on that and making sure everyone gets the answer they need. And if there's issues, making sure we're handling the issues appropriately and quickly, right? I think that's a big thing for us, is if someone has an issue, we want to make sure that they are taken care of, that they know that we are looking into it, or that we're handling it, and that they're not going to be sort of left out in the cold or left out of pocket financially based on something that we or something that we use, connections that we use are struggling with.
Yeah, support can be a bit of a you guys got a smile there. I know what you guys are talking about. And by the way, I hear you guys do a fantastic job with support. I've always heard this about you guys. So kudos to you guys on that. I'm sure you guys are on top of it when you're saying you have to stay up to 3 and 4 in the morning.
Yeah. Between that or stepping out of the office, going to the car, taking calls, or tethering the internet from my phone to my computer and writing emails back in there. It's exciting though. We thoroughly enjoy it and value our customers. We want to make sure they're fully taken care of. And with that, obviously we do want to scale out and make it a little more seamless.
For sure. Again, I want to come back to this whole partnership thing. We sort of talked about on the time management side of things, and you guys have sort of figured out a way to, again, leverage people and software. When it comes to partnering, how do you guys sort of figure out, hey, Ryan, you're going to do this, Max, you're going to do it. Let's talk about the land side of things. When you first started out with your land business, was it just like, okay, whoever's free is going to work on it? How did that look like, and how do you guys sort of naturally fall into your roles?
Yeah, that's another great question. And so usually how we started, again, it was a slow process at first. So we both did everything. And obviously making sure that we can do everything part of the process is always a great idea to know, like if someone can't do one thing at a certain time, that you could hop in and do it. But with that being said, because we did have a technical process where there's actual models and coding involved, Ryan is the one that usually was the one taking care of the coding, making sure the algorithms were right. And then once everything got sent out, then usually I was the one taking care of the calls coming back in and talking to the real estate agents and the due diligence. So that's, for the most part, how we split it up to begin with. But with that being said, as kind of priced has evolved and everything, and both are going at the same time, usually it really depends on what's going on. But Ryan will take care of a lot of the price stuff, and then I'll take care of a lot of the land stuff right now. And then we'll both obviously agree on what places we want to mail out next. And so we have our meeting set up and then basically game plan. And then spread out from there again, and both take care of everything going on. But yeah, that's kind of how we do it. The support we're both taking care of. But yeah, that's really the split up is Ryan is usually taking care of the models behind the scenes, the feature updates, requests, additions, and then we do both support. And then on the land side, yeah, doing more of the due diligence sell side, and then we'll both mail out.
Got you. And I hope I'm not making you guys uncomfortable by asking these kind of questions here. Sorry, guys, I just totally lost my question here, train of thought. But was there any sort of surprises as to you guys working together? Did you guys sort of learn anything about each other, while being in a partnership here together, either on the price side or on the land side?
I don't know if there was any surprises. Obviously, I've known Max now for, I don't know, 8 years roughly. And we've done a few projects together, and I think it's nice because it happened naturally, right? When we did our first project, it was a team of 5 or 6 of us. When we did our second one, it ended up just being both of us, and it's kind of been both of us for quite some time. And so we've kind of gotten familiar with that. What's funny is I actually started on the East Coast and Max was on the West Coast. And so we kind of got into this familiarity of what times worked for communication, or like when we usually talk every day, whether it's a phone call or texting. And so we kind of got into that comfortable thing. And then like within the same month we switched. So Max went to the East and I went back to the West. So then it was like a whole new learning curve of, when the right time to call is. And I'm usually one that, because I'm by myself. So I'm the one calling Max and he's like at dinner with his wife and he's like, "Can I call you later?" I'm like, sorry. But feeling stuff like that out. And, I think for us, it's been really good because we're both pretty committed to doing this and, have that drive and motivation to stay up late and do these things and are very good about communicating about what's going on. I mentioned, we're both texting each other daily and making sure that if there's something outside of the normal that comes up, that we're communicating about what needs to be done, or if you have contracts to sign or, issues to solve, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was totally the whole communication thing that I was going to ask you guys. How often do you guys communicate? And you obviously mentioned it there. What about, I know what this is like. Kevin and I work together as well, and trying to respect each other's time. And he's out in Korea, I'm all out here. So trying to find that overlap can be a little bit tricky. And do you guys sort of do you guys sort of respect each other's time and make sure you don't communicate at a certain time? Or is it like you guys are always on the go when you guys are working?
We try and respect each other's time obviously, like I mentioned, like I'll text Max now. I think I've gotten better about a little bit of saying like, "Hey, when's a good time tonight to talk?" I don't, I obviously want to respect your time with your wife, especially if, they have different hours. So, making sure that he's not just like always on the phone with me. My girlfriend lives in Nashville. So when she comes to visit or I'm visiting her, Max is really good about saying, "Hey, like I'll take up most of the slack this weekend or something so that I don't have to focus on it as much." So we have been pretty good about, at least lately, about, finding that balance and taking the load off of one another's shoulders when, someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to be doing this today," or I have a busy week at work. Can you just double down on doing stuff, making sure we're covered? And
sure.
And that seems to be working for the most part right now.
Yeah. I know you guys are still sort of, you guys known each other for a long time, but sort of still figuring out, how a partnership works. You've been doing it for a while, but do you guys, I'm sure you guys are learning stuff about each other and the business all the time, but do you guys do you guys hold each other accountable? Do you guys do any sort of retrospects or reviews with each other? In a partnership, this can be sometimes tough kind of conversations. And I've heard these kind of conversations with other land investors as well. Somebody's not picking up the slack or so on and so forth. What do you guys sort of do to hold your side, your guys' self accountable? Is it always on the go? You guys kind of just see how you guys are, if you guys are always in touch, that's just a good enough sign? Or what do you guys do to kind of make sure you guys are in check as a partnership?
Yeah, and communication's big. It really starts there. Obviously, if one person dropped off, that'd be a problem. But no, we're really good at communicating. So we'll always have weekly chats, essentially, where we kind of set aside time where we can go through our businesses, making sure everything is on track, on pace. And with that, we set deadlines for ourselves. So what kind of the big thing that we go through is, hey, what deadlines can we set to reach our goals and everything? And that's really been the consistent pusher of us, and making sure that we're both kind of on the same page, making and doing the right things. So that's really been the thing that's been driving us forward with everything. What's been great about us is that we both have, again, that competitive nature. So it's really been so, like, we have the partnership, but we're almost competing sometimes who can kind of do more. And it's actually worked out in a sense where, again, it really drives us forward from there. We both have like competitive nature overall as the company, driving everything, but then against each other. So it's been really great. From that standpoint. Again, it's always been a trouble. I'm sure you've seen this growing up, when you have those school projects, right? When you always have there's one person driving the group, and then three other people just twiddling their thumbs or never showing up and then taking credit. And it's great when you don't get put into the partnership, right? So from the beginning, it's a really good and important piece. Knowing that you're going in with the right person. And so that's when it comes into starting off slow and small, and not kind of mixing things too much, and getting really kind of like company oriented and formalized. So it really starts there. And once that's taken care of, then you don't have to worry about it too much. So that's the best part. Again, you don't want to force anything. You want to make sure that both people are on board from the start. And once that's kind of in line, then it's really about just continuing that process moving forward. So that's what we've kind of learned, and how we kind of keep each other accountable through the process.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And that unspoken competition has been very fun. We have a project management system, and we both make sure that we mark off and say, like, tag the other person, say, hey, can you mark off that this has been completed? And a lot of times it's like Max will say, hey, I just did this. So I'm like, well, now I'm going to have to do something. So then I send something back, and he's like, all right. And so we just it's like a little thing we're doing. It ends up being really fun, though.
Yeah, it may keep us up later than we want sometimes too, just trying to complete a task.
That's hilarious, guys. And you guys talk about goal settings as well, and setting deadlines. For those of you guys that are listening, I know you guys, goal setting is huge for us as well, and it sounds like it's huge for you. We interviewed Travis King, and I think you guys, Travis was also quite involved, or a user of Price as well.
Yeah.
If you guys listen to episode number 41, if you go to reiconversion.com/reicon041, you can have a listen to Travis's episode as he talks about goal setting and planning for the year. So he's also got a downloadable for budgeting. So make sure you guys check that out. I think it's super important to do goal setting as well. And then if you are in a in a partnership like this, having some sort of a weekly sync at least to kind of keep things moving is super important. Ryan, Max, any other things that I sort of missed out here that that I didn't really talk much about when it comes to being in the armed forces or in the Air Force, and having a 9 to 5 and running a partnership and team management? Anything that I sort of missed, or that you guys would want to share in general, or any thoughts in general?
The only thing I would want to share is that it really is hard. A lot of the times you hear on podcasts or see people writing books or anything on Facebook, all these people making so much money and they're just living the good life and everything. And it's easy. It is not true. It is extremely hard work, long nights, frustrations behind the scenes. And so obviously we're on now having some sort of success, and obviously we can hopefully continue that moving forward. But there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes, and a lot of things that we're not able to do because we're focusing on the business or are giving up. And so there are trade-offs along the way. So don't always believe all the hype and glam that you see. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of pivots involved. We did not think that we would be creating this kind of public domain price.com product that we have today. But it kind of just transformed into that. And so it's just understanding, going with the flow, and really just continuous work ethic going through it, because over time that starts to build on each other. And so that's the one thing that we've learned, is that it doesn't happen overnight. We're about a year into it now, and we're just starting to see some of our efforts kind of come to fruition. So it's really a long process. And before even we started this, it's been a couple years back from the lessons we've learned along the way too.
Yeah. I've gotten a lot out of this interview, and just kind of, you guys reconfirming some of the things, I was thinking about, when it starts, especially on the partnership and testing things out. And so for those of you guys that are thinking about partnering up, test things out, see how things kind of work out naturally. And it sounds like, Ryan and Max, you naturally have a chemistry together. You guys know each other's rhythms. So it's really important, I think, also to kind of like you said, you guys sort of took it as a fun project and approach it in a fun manner without any major commitments like you did with the initial business, right? And I know what that's exactly like. You get excited, you want to set the LLC, you want to set up who's going to get what share, and it's funny how that always works out. But on the price side of things, if you guys are interested, Ryan and Max, I should have got you guys to talk about this at the very beginning, but for those that are listening aren't even sure what priced is, I don't try to make these shows into a commercial or anything, but I know that a lot of people find so much value from using Priced, and it works. It works very well with our system, REI Pebble. But can you guys describe to us what Priced essentially is in a couple sentences here?
It's okay. Oh. Yeah. Let's see.
Boom.
In a couple sentences. Yeah. So I mean,
no, not in a couple sentences. However you like to describe it.
So obviously, what we like to think of it as a huge acquisition engine for real estate campaigning. We specifically target this mail market campaign strategy of sending out blind offers. I think that since we've initially launched, we've added so much more to that. But really, the goal is to with our system, help you research locations. And I'm kind of framing this around vacant land. We do have housing, but for a lot of this, it's vacant land. And so researching locations based on comp analytics, searching and finding those locations, looking at comps, looking at pricing, and then being able to export that list and get it in a nice, clean and concise Excel file that doesn't have 150 extra fields that you don't really need for what you're doing, and having to filter and organize those. And the goal is to get you in and out as quick as possible, so that you can really focus on the real estate side of things and not the data and mailing side of things. And like you mentioned, Jesse, being able to neatly integrate with your system so that they can download lists from us. And then cleanly import into you, and off you go sending the letters. And the feedback we've heard is tremendous about going from days to minutes in terms of the time spent doing this, and especially around looking at comps and trying to come up with pricing. We obviously that's our core competency is pricing, and we have a huge database of comps to be able to view, to be able to manipulate in terms of how you want to adjust models, and then like I mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of other features like our comp reporting, like our comp API. We have our list uploading, so we try and provide a bunch of different ways for you to ultimately achieve that goal of sending out the letters, and then also being able to analyze pricing of property.
Yep. I know that. So every Friday I run this group demo of sending mailers out through REI Pebble, and so I'll usually have about like 4 to 6 people in there, and then I'll ask everybody. They have to have their Excel file ready, and somebody always says, I'll ask, what list do you have? Where do you get your list? Where do you get this? And someone says, I'm priced, and like, oh, what's priced? And then they're like, yeah, it just gets me the offer, and everybody always like, what is this? Like. What is this thing? So anyways, a lot of people are always interested when they hear like how much time, because it's crazy, because they're sitting there with a smile. They're like, yeah, I've done my list. It's already got all of my offers ready to go. I'm literally ready to send out my offers in the next couple minutes here. Whereas everybody's still, maybe they're in the middle of getting their pricing together and whatnot. So if you're interested to learn more about Priced or want to use Priced, make sure you guys check out, go to priced.com. That's PRYCD.com, and then /REI conversion. Max and Ryan have been super generous enough to offer us an exclusive an offer here. So you will get correct me if I'm wrong, but 400 free property polls, and that regularly it's 200. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then also, they've offered us a 25% discount on consulting fees. What does consulting typically look like with you guys? I get asked that a lot.
Yeah, the consulting, it goes from general kind of overview of, hey, this is priced, to instead of going into what strategies can you use actually to pull the data that you want. So you basically would come in there. I'm usually the one taking over consulting calls right now. So we'll go over a call and kind of figure out what your goals are overall, where you want to go. And then we come up with an actual strategy from there where you can actually take an actionable plan and steps to download data and get the data that you want to go forward. So it's really creating the plan and ideas that you want and making it into an actionable task to actually go ahead and use then.
Awesome. Ryan, Max, I went a little bit over time here, and I fubbed up on one of my questions. So I hate it when that happens. But thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your guys' experience, your story, and where you guys are at. We're wishing you guys nothing but the best. Would love to have you guys back either on one of our masterminds or whatever. We love talking to both of you guys. I know our users love using you guys as well. So thank you very much for all that you do, and hope to have you guys around again.
Thanks, Jesse.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Cheers. Take care, guys. Before you stop this podcast or head to the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate an awesome review and rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the REI Conversion Podcast or this specific episode that may help them on their investing journey. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.